So we will finish lesson 12 today. Functions that are defined in pieces, or in other words, piecewise functions. You'll know that you're successful if you can make sense of a graph of a piecewise function in terms of the situation and sketch it when the rules are given. That will be specifically tested on Thursday, and you picked up the practice test on your way in. So as you can see, number 1 is a piecewise function where you're making the graph based on the rules. And then making sense of the rules, explain what they mean, and understanding what makes a function a piecewise function. So if we missed yesterday, I did record it. It was in my 3rd hour, who honestly probably took the longest to figure out what the mistake was in example 1. So I mean, you might have to like skip around. So we're gonna start from where they left off, which was example 2. We'll just completely start right from the beginning today with example 2. But as always, you could always like find other videos of piecewise functions if you want it explained a different way. And I have like one example right here. Yeah. So today, really, we're not doing much. We're finishing the lesson. We are working on our puzzle piece, and we are working on this practice test. So ideally, you would be able to do a constructed response the same day that you do the 100-point portion. Like that was literally specified by the district that they want you to do both parts in 1 hour. So like the past unit where I gave you extra time to finish your constructed response isn't something that normally happens. So you do have to be prepared. You do have to be able to answer a question and justify your answer in complete sentences, or at least show the word to justify your answer. So we'll practice that today. If you're absent and watching this video, you can find it in Schoology. It's linked in there, and it'll be worth 20 class points. I thought about making it worth 50 class points so that it kind of matches up with the other study guide, but I don't know. I felt bad for the people that would be absent that aren't doing it in class, even though we will record it and put it out there. So I just left it at 20 class points. Puzzle pieces there. You do have a binder check tomorrow. These pages, some of them are 2 pages. I just have to go through and update it, but you should have notes for lessons 1 through 12. We didn't skip any. Once I figure out exactly how many pages that is, I'll update this slide, and whatever that number is, say it is 12, it's not, it's a little more than that, but times it by 2, and that's how many assessment points it'll be worth. So you get assessment points just for taking notes, because the assessment category is 80%. All right, I feel bad, because then what if you're a bad test taker? But then again, in the grand scheme of things, that is what is tied to a lot of scholarships. So you need to become better at test takers. But this is the one thing that could bump your grade should you make sure that you're taking good notes. So then there's other resources in Schoology. This one we're doing today, so as long as you're participating, no reason you shouldn't get that done. This one is more on your own. You'll have some time tomorrow. It is 100 classroom points, and it is modeled exactly after the 100-point portion of your test. So take it seriously, and then of course the glossary. I'm bringing all of that to your attention because we are taking our last unit test for this semester this Thursday. And then next week we'll be doing stuff for finals, preparing for finals, and that's about it. So if you're wanting to make big moves in your grade, like by retaking a test, you really only have 3 opportunities left. And that would require you coming outside of class. So that would be Wednesdays after school, only 2 Wednesdays left, and this Saturday at Saturday time. And that's it. So questions? All right, so moving on to example 2 from yesterday. We might have gotten farther, but let's just pretend for the sake of the video that we didn't know. So example 2 on your 412 note. Function C represents the dollar cost of renting a bike from a bike sharing service for 2 minutes. And here are the rules describing the function. Let's complete the table together if we haven't already. So how much does it cost for 0 minutes according to these rules? $0. 10 minutes? $2.50 because 10 falls between what two numbers here? 0 and 30. All right, so T for minutes, this is what we're plugging in. This one is the one that it makes sense, so that's what it costs. 25 minutes. 60 minutes. $5. So 60 is listed twice, but how do you know which 60 value for the cost is correct? The one that has the equal to part in there. So this rule has it where it can be exactly 60, the one below it cannot be, so that's why it's $5. 75 minutes. $7.50. 130 minutes. $12.50 and 180. Good. Now the next part, which you'll also have to do on your test on Thursday. Sketch a graph of the function for all values of t that are at least 0 minutes and at most 240 minutes. Guess what we are going to use to graph this? These right here. And these y values too. But these are my input values over here, what we marked in blue. That's gonna look something similar to the other piecewise functions that we looked at. You'll have, depending on the rules are, an open circle, a closed circle, and maybe something where it shows that it costs the same amount for a certain interval. Okay, so I'm gonna give you in your groups, I'll give you 3 minutes to try and answer these 3 parts. So to sketch the graph, describe in words the pricing rules, and the domain and range. So 3 minutes. So table 3, what would I graph first on this graph? I'll leave your table 3, but technically I would agree with you, but if you look at the other one, this one also had a 0, 0, but see on the 0 how they had an open circle up here. So let's try to make it look more like the one from yesterday. Ordinarily, yeah, when something weighs 0, it costs $0 to mail, just like when you use the bike for 0 minutes, it costs $0 to rent it. But let's kind of make it look more like the one on the first page. So table 3, where would I put the first circle? Okay, good. Just so that it looks more like the one from yesterday. So it's an open circle because that's not actually the output when it's 0, but that's where the piecewise function starts. We're gonna kind of, we'll actually take the floor. When does it stop being $2.50?
No, it's at 60.
Look up here, these are your rules. 30. So at 30 exactly, is it 250 still? Class?
Yeah.
So I'm gonna put a closed circle on the 30. And I'm gonna connect the open and closed circle with the line. Because isn't anything from 0 to 30 $2.50?
Yes.
Yes. So we're graphing based on the rules, not the table. I know that might be weird, but just making sure we could We will. Table 5. What would I graph next?
So, open on the 5, so 30x and then 5y,
Okay, good, open,
and then align to the x.
and would that be an open or close? Okay, good. So open on the left, closed on the right. Hopefully my marker is not too big that you can't tell that it's open, but left is open. Table 6. What would I graph next? Good. Table 7, next point or thing I would graph. So which x value? But what would be the x? Would it be an open circle on 120 and 10? Okay, where should the open circle be then? On the 90 and the 10. Because 90 is when it starts to change, right? So the answer for when it's 90 minutes is not gonna be 10, that's why it's open. But that's where it starts to be different, when it's above 90. And then where would the closed circle be? Left. And then connect them, because in between that, they compensate. Let's see, table 8, where would the next thing be? Kind of follow the pattern here. And then what Y value? See, that makes sense, and then close circle of what? And what Y value? 12.5, and then connect them. All right, let's see, is that it? Oh, we have to keep going. Table 1, what would I graph next? Oh, sorry. And what kind of circle? Good, and then. Are you sure that there'd be a close on the 180 according to the rule here? Yeah. Because where does it stop being $15? Wow. No.
231.
At 720. So does our graph go all the way to an input of 720? So that's like how our graph would look. It still continues beyond this all the way to the 720, then we'll have a closed circle there, but that's what I'm limited to on this graph. But does that make sense? How we're using the rule to figure it out? All right, the table is just seeing if you could read the rule and say what it would cost for any particular amount of time. Okay, so that's good. Make sure your graph looks just like that. Any questions on that part? You'll have to do it for your All right, now someone just tell me in words the pricing rules for renting a bike from this bike sharing service. So for every 30 minutes, if you guys want to write that down. And let's see. I would agree up until the very last one, but for every 30 minutes, it costs an additional, how much? An additional $2.50 to rent the bike. All right, and then after anything above the 150 minutes, it just costs them $15, right? So how would we write that part? How long is 150 minutes? Is that like?
A lot.
Is that-
An hour,
2 hours and 20 minutes.
20. Yeah, 30.
Okay, let's-
30 minutes.
150 divided by 60 is 2.5 hours, so yeah, 2 hours and 30 minutes.
I would care.
So anything above 2.5 hours, I'll just put is $15. All right, anyone agree, disagree? All right, I think that's a good summary of the rule for how they're charging. Last thing we need to find is the domain and range. So I imagine you guys didn't get to that part, so I'll give you like 30 seconds or so to decide in your groups before I call on you. What's the maximum amount of time that they can rent the bike, by the way?
720 minutes.
Good. It doesn't give you just above 150 minutes, right? It stops at some point. Do you guys know how long 720 minutes is? You guys know how to figure out how long?
I think I was 6.
720 divided by 60 is
9.
12 hours. So they can rent
They can rent it for half the entire.
for a maximum of 12 hours. All right, now domain and range. I forget what table I left off on. I think we're on table 2. So table 2, domain refers to all the X's or the Y's. Exit. So all the inputs of the function. What is our input in this one? Well, what is it representing? No, not the cost. The time. You know, because it's on your x-axis. You know, because time is usually independent, so it's usually your input and all the things. So when we're talking about any restrictions on the time, are there any restrictions on the time?
No, yeah. Oh, wait, it's 12 hours.
12 hours, I'm gonna leave it in minutes, but yeah, I want you guys to know how long that was, but for the domain, since it's in minutes, I'll leave it as minutes. So the most it could be is 720 hours. What's the least it could be? 0, because can you have a negative amount of time? Now, what symbols would go in between? Not greater than or equal to.
Less than, and then less than.
Good. I would keep it as less than just because that's how it is here. All right, for this one. Technically, you could write a bike for 0 minutes, but
It would be
what it
free.
costs you.
No,
All right, and then even just 1 minute of riding the bike would cost you something, so that's why I'm just gonna leave it at. bigger than 0. All right, so that's my domain. Questions on that part? Now, table 3, what is my range representing?
The Y.
The Y, which is what in this one? The cost in dollars. So what is, are there any restrictions on that?
Yeah,
What is my range going to be?
well, it's like you can't, it's $2.50, $5, $7.50, $10, $12.50, $6.50.
Okay, I agree. Is it anything in between that? Like, could it be $3?
No.
So how do I list it when it's just like those numbers and those numbers only, Daniel?
You put it in bracket.
Good, you use those fancy brackets and you literally just list them. 250, comma, $5, I won't make that up. Comma, 750, comma, 10, comma, 1250, comma, 1050. Because that's all that they charge. They don't charge anything between that, anything beyond that, just those numbers. So when it's a list, you use your brackets to show here's the beginning of my list, here's the end of my list, and that's it. So questions on that activity, good? All right, so you have a puzzle piece. I'll kind of leave that on the back burner right now, because I think it's more important that we work on the practice test. So that paper that you picked up on your way in is what I want you to work on. I don't think it should take you that long. I'll give you until like a little bit after 8. And then I'll answer any questions you have. All right, but my plan is to check it before you leave. So if it's not done, and